Hi everybody, welcome back to our next Lunch and Learn, and it's taken us to Kensington Market. So Boundaries, College and Dundas, Bathurst and Spadina, a nice big square. So most of the neighborhood shops, cafes and other attractions, they're located along Augusta, Nassau, Baldwin and Kensington Avenue. In addition to the market, the neighborhood features Bellevue Square, Toronto Western Hospital, Kensington Community School, and a huge mixed bag of housing. The vast majority, they were built between 1850 and 1900. This one here behind me, a great example of a Victorian house. It was built in 1888. But as you can see, they're interspersed with so many different types of housing. This black house here, built in 1975. This one here, 1985, and here, I think somewhere in the 90s. So Kensington Market is one of the most distinctive and multicultural neighborhoods in the city. In 2006, it was designated a Canadian National Historical Site. So let's start with George Dennison. After serving in the War of 1812, he bought a piece of property in this neighborhood in 1815. Basically from Bloor to Queen Street, roughly between where Augusta and Lippincott Streets are now. So Dennison built his estate on the street named after the street called Bellevue. So Dennison Avenue, it's basically the driveway that led up to his house. In the 1850s, the land was subdivided and houses were built on small plots for Irish and Scottish immigrants coming to Toronto. As mentioned, much of the housing featured true Victorian architecture. These houses have been inhabited by many waves of immigrants. Houses that are found closer to the market area tend to feature retail at the front or the bottom of the house. During the early 20th century, Kensington became populated by Eastern European Jewish immigrants who moved there from the Ward, which was basically a slum where the present-day City Hall stands. I'm sure you remember from previous videos we talked about this. The Ward's residents moved west to Spadina Avenue to enjoy less crowding, better housing conditions, and opportunities to create storefront businesses. The area then was known as the Jewish Market. They operated small shops as tailors, furriers, butchers, bakers, and other types of merchants. Around 60,000 Jews lived in and around Kensington Market during the 20s and 30s, and there were over 30 local synagogues. Two still remain, the Kiever, which is actually behind me right now, and we're standing right in Bellevue Square Park actually, and Anshe Minsk, which is on St. Andrews. And curiously enough, it's sandwiched between a cannabis shop and a Chinese restaurant, so pretty eclectic mix. After the Second World War, most of the Jewish population moved north. They were replaced mostly by immigrants from Portugal and the Azores. And over time, new waves of immigrants from the Caribbean, East Asia, they made the community even more diverse. As Chinatown is located just east of Kensington, the Chinese are now the largest ethnic group in the neighborhood today. In the 60s, there were plans to tear down housing and replace them with large apartment-style housing projects, as was done in other downtown neighborhoods like we've covered. North Cabbagetown, Church and Wellesley Village, those are two examples that we did in the past. These plans came to an end with the election of David Crombie as mayor. Crombie, he was strongly opposed to the massive urban restructuring plans that had been trendy in previous decades. During the 1980s and 90s, there was an influx from places like Central America, Somalia, Ethiopia, Sudan, Vietnam, Chile, and other trouble spots in the world. The market resisted the recession of the 1980s, partially thanks to students attending George Brown College, which is where the Kensington lofts are today, and I guess partially me and my friends who used to buy vintage clothes at stores like Courage, My Love. A little nostalgic for me, but there's tons of these vintage clothing stores in the neighborhood. George Brown, they sold the property in the mid-1990s, and without that extra student traffic, many stores, they couldn't hang on. Also, many Portuguese store owners were now too old to continue working their small shops, which led to an abundant vacancy and it invited a new wave of immigrant entrepreneurs. Businesses took advantage of a growing wave of Latin American immigrants, and they started offering ethnic street foods. And speaking of street foods, let's go grab some lunch. All right, here's where we picked. We picked a place called Sleepy Pete's in Kensington Market. I got a Monte Cristo sandwich, which is ham, Jarlsberg cheese, blueberry jam. It's really, really good. I already ate half of it. Joelle, she asked me to take a bite of her bacon and egg, which I won't, but she is a foodie and she swears by it. She said this is the best in the city. So if you're in Kensington Market, Sleepy Pete's, check it out. All this movement led to the rebirth of Augusta Avenue. Today, the neighborhood is a noted tourist attraction, and it's the center of Toronto's cultural life as artists and writers, they moved into the area. Land prices in the area, they've increased, but despite its appeal to professionals, Kensington remains predominantly a working-class immigrant community. Kensington is also protected by a variety of policies, mainly to enhance the atmosphere that's unique to the neighborhood. As I said at the beginning of the video, in November of 2006, Kensington Market was proclaimed a National Historic Site of Canada. Toronto's official plan, which is the vision for the city until 2026, it doesn't designate or allow much change in the neighborhood. With no major change, one can assume Kensington will keep a unique character for a long, long while. For example, Nike, they wanted to open a store in the neighborhood, but it met with such fierce opposition from the locals, it never happened. The narrow streets, it makes the market challenging for those driving, especially parking in the neighborhood. On Saturdays and some late afternoons, pedestrians, they walk freely down the middle of the street between slow-moving cars. Since 2004, residents and businesses have organized a series of pedestrian Sunday events. Parts of Augusta, Baldwin, and Kensington Avenue are closed to motorized traffic, and the streets become a pedestrian mall. Live music, dancing, street theater, and games are among the special events in the closed streets. Today, the area is filled with a mix of food, stores, bakeries, and spice and dry goods stores, and cheese shops too. The stores, they sell a wide variety of new and used clothing as well, and you can see kind of behind me, this is exactly where we're standing. Discount surplus stores, etc. It's also home to many restaurants covering a wide variety of styles and ethnicities. A unique architectural feature of the neighborhood are the extensions built onto the front of many of the buildings, which again, I'm standing right in front of. In recent years, the neighborhood has seen many upscale cafes, restaurants, clubs, and they're replacing many of the older ethnic businesses. So prices. This is a very, very stable neighborhood. There's only been 4 MLS sales in 2024. A couple of row houses, they sold between $940,000 and $1,250,000, and a couple of detached, 1.9 to 2.9 million. But let's just say the majority, they would sell probably between 1.2 and 2 million. You could probably find a fixer-upper under $1 million if it ever came to market. We're actually standing in a little laneway. It's called Kensington Place. No one really knows about it. Even these are really, really tiny row houses, worker houses built in the 1800s. These have sold for over $1 million, believe it or not. And condos. There aren't many. The 2 main ones, Kensington Lofts on Baldwin and Nassau Street and 297 College. On College, 1 bedroom, $550,000 to $650,000, 2 bedrooms, $800,000 to $1 million. And as far as the loft goes, they're so diverse in size and layouts. Let's just say in 2024, you could probably buy one between $600,000 and $1.7 million, a very big range. But if you want more details, you're going to have to call me. Anyways, I love doing these videos. Call me, like, share, and we'll talk soon.